in the world would they have the time to develop their own character as our tradition requires? Our tradition requires you to do the right thing so you can get to a good place in your life. Okay? It requires you to do all of that. So when you see people start acting crazy, you need to revert back to like, okay, think about how do they treat mental illness in Africa. Mental illness, you could be a functioning mentally ill person and you wouldn't know that you're mentally ill until you display this behavior for whatever reason. So I know that the attacks, for example, on my character and all of this came as a result of a struggle for power, and that's on their part, okay? To have power, I was told things like, who am I, who do I think I am to name my group, Ifa, Orisha, Egun people. This is another group worldwide, okay? Just for a name, like who give me, like they were like, who give me the authority? And I'm like, hey, and I have my hands up like, like when the police are trying to arrest you, I got my hands pulled up in the air. I'm not armed. I got my hands up. Don't come on me like that. Don't come at me like that. So, so when you see these people, you see these people working and trying to demean your character like that, you have to wonder, okay? But I'm going to go into what is mental illness and the concept that the Yoruba have in their mind and how it relates to, remember now, the Yoruba tradition that we call Ifa is what a lot of us here in the diaspora that are into African spirituality, that's what we basically go by. This is what is being introduced to us, okay? So we need to understand for ourselves what is their idea of mental illness, okay? And at the same time, we're going to keep in the back of our mind that there's no real treatment and focus on that aspect in Africa, in Nigeria right now. Okay, keep that in mind. So I'm reading. I'm going to read and touch on little areas on this paper by Ayodele Samuel Jegede, and he's from the University of Ibadan in Nigeria. And the paper he did is entitled "The Notion of Were," and it's spelled W-E-R-E, but it's pronounced Were, in Yoruba conception of mental illness. Okay, so Were now, he writes, the conception of mental illness has a narrower focus than the Western view of mental illness. Okay, so we got to understand that. We already established that part. So while the notion of Were merely refers to the manifestation of a mental disorder, mental illness in the West involves minor stages of mental problems. Okay, that's the big difference. So what the author is saying that he's going to address a non-Western concept of ill health and illustrate the differential conception and interpretation of mental illness. And his objective is to examine the Yoruba concept of mental illness. Labeling theory explains that deviance is a function of the response of others to a particular group. Okay? It has been argued that social groups, right? And remember now, the Ifa Orisha Egun community is social. The people within this tradition It's really social, not irrespective of Facebook. In general, it's a social thing because it's something that is done by community. It's a community thing. It involves people coming, people coming, they're getting initiated, they're getting ritual work done, they're learning, all of this. So it involves a lot of social interaction. So it has been argued that social groups create deviance, okay, by making the rules for which deviation constitutes deviance. Like when you go against the grain, okay? You're going against what it is you say you're doing in the group, okay? So deviance now is not a quality of an act a person commits, but the consequence of the application of the rules and sanctions of offenders, okay? Meaning like the people that say they're Orisha and Ifa priests, and, they get on to talk about the Orisha, period, okay? Talking about the Orisha, this is as a benevolent, in our worldview, the Orishas are very good. They're like our guardian angels. So we're talking about our guardian angels, and every other sentence is an F word. Yeah, that MF ba ba ba, and yeah, and Shango ba ba ba, and Oshun, ba 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 ba, and then I don't want to say all the curse words, but there are people that do that on social media. That's why I don't allow them to do that in my group. But one of my groups, I don't allow them to do that. I don't want you to tell me anything about Orisha. Tell me what the problems are that you're having within the tradition. And this mental illness is one of our problems, okay? So the society the individual is in is supposed to be defined, right, in a particular way, okay? So we're supposed to be priests, and when we talk or do anything priestly, our priestly, you need to see it, okay? But I've noticed that when somebody come on, say that somebody does a live, and they start by, yeah, man, I had to tell that motherfucker, blah, 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 Shango, blah, 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 excuse me. Yeah, I'm just demonstrating. I'm very, active in doing stuff like that. But, yeah, I got to tell, and blah. And I'm like, what? And a lot of people like that because they call that straight talk, okay? Yeah, they talking street, they talking hood, and I can understand where you're coming from because that NF, blah, 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 blah. This is what, and I'm like, oh, snappy, excuse me, okay? So why you have to show this defiance and this aggression in trying to explain something about the Orisha? Why? And this becomes normal, and to me, it's like a big disrespect to the Orisha themselves, okay? And even to the other people that don't live like that. So the Yoruba group defines mental illness from cultural perspectives and labels, right? The individual as a were is in case of nonconformity, right? Nonconformity to approved way of life. That means they're not acting, especially when such behavior is on the extreme. So they're not acting in accordance with what they say, they're supposed to be doing, So we go back to the thing, the adage is the Orisha makes you, the Orisha and this way of life, via initiation, you more of what you are or what you already were, okay? So if you were like really sick in the head and you don't work on that, like you just got initiated and like, okay, I have arrived because I'm initiated and I could tell you about Shango. I'm using Shango because Shango is fiery, right? So Shango is my bad and blah, blah, blah. You understand? It's just like that video I saw where the young ladies were singing, And everybody was, some people liked it, some people didn't like it because it was a hip hop song, you know, and you know people like hip hop music and everything. And some people, you know, were like, what the hell? You know, they were calling themselves bruja bitches, okay? You know, bruja meaning witch. They're witch bitches. And they, you know, of course, in the same song, they had Yemoya and, you know, and Oshun talking about in the same song, the praising of different Orisha and everything. In the same song, while calling themselves bruja bitches. You see what I'm saying? So that did not fit the context at all. No. And then we have, who was the guy? Was it Fat Joe and who that was? Nicki Minaj? Who that was that made that other thing with bend over and something, whatever. And, you know, of course, the community, the Orisha community got on them and they, you know, put the video on the ground or something, or they edited or whatever they did, okay? So now, the Yoruba, I mean, a lot of you know about the Yoruba, right? You know, they're based in Nigeria. They're one of the three major ethnic groups in Nigeria, you know, along with the Hausers and the Igbos, okay? And, their worldview for worshiping is primarily the worship of gods and deities, right? So you have the view of the supreme being known as Olodumare, and the descendants of a common ancestor that they call Oduduwa, right? So that is their common worldview of, you know, worshiping of the various deities and gods. A supreme God called Olodumare, and then you got all the deities, right? So for them, God is the ultimate explanation of the Genesis sustenance of man and all things, okay? Which is pretty much what everybody thinks God is, just the ultimate. And the spirit made up of superhuman beings and spirits of ancestors. You know, that these are what we call the Orishas and everything. The whole pantheon, the Orishas, the elements and all the elementals and all of these. So we have man, too, is included in the human beings alive, and those not yet born are also included under this whole situation, the animals, the plants, everybody. So everybody has their place and their order, right? Okay. So in addition to those five categories, there is vital force, right? Power and energy. And all of this, so it all depends on how we use our energy, because a lot of times we misplace our energy and it comes off in the wrong way. And what is a good example of that? When those so-called scholar elder leaders in the from Yoruba land, the Yoruba people that got on social media and start debasing me and other people, and instead of leading like our elder do, so they done switch, they done deviate from their position. Y'all with me on this, right? They deviated from their position, right, in order to express themselves, and it came off looking like pure mental illness. That's how it came off looking to me in the end, where they could not even revert back to acting in a dignified way in order to, quote unquote, teach me a lesson. Okay? So according to the writer, it have a few human beings, right, that are endowed with the knowledge and ability to tap and manipulate and use the vital forces. The vital forces of the plants, the animals, divination, and manipulation of phenomena to create phenomena. Yeah, we got a few people that do that, right? So these humans are such as the medicine man and women, those that they call the witches, which are the great mothers, and those children or those